I wrote this book in part. Me and Mr. West, brother West,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
had a conversation at my dining room table one time. He came to my house with brother Jeffrey Canada,
Jeffrey
who
Canada.
runs a children's zone up in Harlem.
That's
And we had this beautiful conversation about language and about the use of language and rap being more responsible for the things we say. And I try to explain in some way of why we say these things. Because anything, any lyric or any music without context is a lie. You know, if I tell you that NWA said, fuck the police, you would look and say those guys are gangster rappers and they shouldn't be saying things like that. Until the Rodney King beatings, which gave it context, and you knew this was what happened in their neighborhood. They was getting, it was police brutality, and it was an excessive amount of force. And they would take some gang members and drop them off in their rival gang members' neighborhood and tell them to get home. That was fun. You know, so without context, and now you're not saying the decisions that we made were right or wrong because we were young boys, we were 16,
very honest
but it's honest. It's like, here's what happened. Now, as a moral person, you could decide what decisions you would have made. You know, there's a movie called John Q that, you know, I use this as well. Like, the movie is about this man's fight to save his son, you know, and here it is, this black man inside a hospital with a gun. If I told you that, you say there's no reason on earth why anyone should be in a hospital with a gun. But then, you know, given the context of his son is dying and he's trying to save his dying son, maybe you say, well, he didn't have to bring the gun. But given the context, you can understand the reasons why people come to these choices that they make, good, bad, or indifferent.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. And that was a wonderful discussion we had, and you were kind enough, as you recall, to come to Princeton.
Yes.
To my seminar with Brother
Kind enough,
Eddie
I was
Clark.
on it. I was in Princeton
No,
discussing
brother. No,
Horace and Biggie.
It was a moment. Because we had Jay-Z here and Toni Morrison on my left.
Yeah.
Felicia Rashad on the left with Toni Morrison. And I recall I was talking about Plato and Socrates and how Plato had decided, owing to a deep sense of loss and mourning, to make the world safe for Socrates so that people would remember the name of Socrates forever. And you said, well, I have been playing Plato to Biggie Socrates. And that hit all of us so hard because it showed the degree to which your sense of history, both in regard to another lyrical genius like yourself, both in regard to another artistic giant like yourself, who's part of the black tradition, the American tradition, the modern tradition, and this contemporary, postmodern, late modern, whatever term you want to use. But this issue of context is, for me, so very important. Because, see, when I look at you and see your humanity, when I hear you and remain attuned to the genius, I say to myself, what a great tradition, what a great people. Because the black musical tradition, as I understand it, is in part an anti-terrorist activity. You see, it's the history of terrorism coming at black people, the history of trauma coming at black people, history of stigma coming at black people, and the response from spirituals under slavery to blues under Jim and Jane Crow to Marcy Projects. And there's a lot of Marcy Projects in America.
That's
now.
right.
It's where the terror and the trauma and the stigma is still there. And the response is what? Unbelievable oratorical, linguistic, musical response, trying to make sense of the world. And of course, it's going to be shot through with all kinds of blindnesses, because we all have our blindnesses and our own forms of ignorance. It could be learned ignorance, quasi-learned ignorance, non-learned ignorance, whatever it is. We all have it, one way or another. But you have decided to keep this tradition alive in such a powerful way, though, brother. And that's why, for me, I'm always just inspired as well as instructed when I'm in your presence.